For more on the Cincinnati Bengals draft, we bring in Jeremy Rao, who covers the team down in Cincy at Fox 19. Jeremy, number 5. I think this is interesting. It's where the draft really picks up because we know it's going to be very quarterback heavy at the top. We know the Bengals are not in the market for quarterback. So what does your gut say they will do at number 5?
Well, the Bengals, Dave, they feel like they're in a great position, and they will tell you that whoever they draft, we just talked with Duke Tobin, who's the pseudo GM this week, whoever they draft is expected to come in right away and be an impact player, he said, and start right away. Now, you might be thinking right out the gates, okay, who is that guy that can come in and start right away? What kind of player are we talking about? I would just tell you this. I believe strongly that it's Ja'Marr Chase. I believe strongly that it's a wide receiver. Because you have to look at what they've done. You kind of have to read in between the lines in the offseason. In free agency, they added an offensive lineman in Riley Reiff. Granted, they didn't fix the offensive line, but they addressed that. They addressed a lot of things on defense. And so what did they leave out? They left out adding a big-time offensive weapon, understanding that A.J. Green is gone. He wasn't what he was supposed to be the last couple of years, but he's gone. They need someone still who can come in and stretch the field. Ja'Marr Chase is that kind of a guy. We know already that Joe Burrow would love to work with Ja'Marr again. From the conversations I've had, Ja'Marr wants to come to Cincinnati as well and be back with Joe Burrow. So all of those things in play and understanding what the Bengals have done this offseason and really what they haven't done, I think it leads to them wanting to go with that weapon and a wide receiver like Ja'Marr Chase.
And if they do, the fans will applaud because nothing makes fans more excited than taking a stud wide receiver. But let me play devil's advocate here. You have Tyler Boyd, you have T. Higgins, who looks like a home run, and you have Joe Burrow laying on a couch with a scar about this long. Do you think it would be a mistake to not get Burrow more protection?
Here's what I believe the Bengals will do. And again, I use words like I believe because I'm not telling you for sure. This is not a source telling me something. But Dave, what I believe is the Bengals like to go back to back. They like to stack up in the draft, especially under Duke Tobin, who has a big voice in that war room as far as drafting. What I believe they will do, Dave, is they will draft Ja'Marr Chase in the first round and then stack up second and third round, maybe a tackle and then a guard to get some more of that security for Joe Burrow, because they believe a guy like, let's say, Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama might still be there early second round. They had that high pick again in the second round. And so that's the answer to that question is I just don't believe they think Penei Sewell is a pick that needs to be used in the top 5. I think they believe they can still really add some depth on the offensive line by going back to back in the second and third round. And to me, that is their fix, part of the fix to the scar on Joe Burrow's knee.
I think the Bengals are a difficult team to evaluate because so much revolves around the health of Joe Burrow, and we didn't get to see him as much as we wanted to. Do you think this team is close with Burrow to flipping this thing around and being an 8-8 team? Although I guess we're going to play 17 games. An 8-9 team, a 9-8 team.
Yeah, I think they believe they're close. You know, they've been in this rebuilding phase, and it's been a slog getting here now. And last year, it felt like was going to be the year, Dave, that they turned that corner. Obviously, Joe Burrow was injured in the 10th game in Week 11 in that game in Washington, and that kind of put a hold on everything. But they were expecting to start turning that corner last year. And I spoke with Zach Taylor a couple of times last year, and Zach told me, listen, give me one more draft class. He knows he's up against it if he doesn't win this year. He said, give me one more draft class to get, quote unquote, my guys in this locker room. All the veteran guys, Marvin's guys are gone, right? A.J. Green is gone. Geno Atkins, Giovanni Bernard, Carlos Dunlap. Doesn't make them bad guys. It just means that all of those big veteran voices that we're talking about how things used to be, they're gone. This is a whole new roster. This is Joe Burrow's team. And I believe, Dave, the expectation has to be to go at least, as you talked about, 9-8, to win more games than they lose, to keep Zach Taylor in Cincinnati and keep everyone believing that Zach and Joe Burrow can keep this thing rolling.
Okay, so you expect playmaker at 5, probably a wide receiver. You think they address offensive line in the first 3 rounds. Is there any other position of need that you think Cincy has to leave when they walk out of that draft?
I think some of the things they're going to look at later in the draft is defensive back. I mean, understanding that they tried to replace William Jackson in free agency and make some moves with guys that they lost to kind of be equal footing there. But I think they still want to add depth there at DB. You can never have too much depth at defensive back. I'm also curious if they do look at someone at running back behind Joe Mixon. Now, we were told this week they like where they are at running back. But listen, if you can find a guy later in the rounds, like maybe even a Trey Sermon out of Ohio State, a guy like that who can come in and be somewhat of an impact player behind Joe Mixon. I think that's something that you might want to look for later in the rounds with this team.